Before I begin, on this the 23rd night of the holy month of Ramadan, I'd like to ask for your forgiveness for any shortcomings on my part in either these majalis. If there's anything which I have said which may have offended, that was not the intention, inshallah. And indeed, in any of the majalis over the past 16 years or so, that on a night like this, when we ask Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala to forgive all of us, in the same way, inshallah, we can forgive each other. And this message goes out to everybody who watches this, whether this is here or online or on the television, that I ask for their forgiveness, and I hope they find it in their heart to forgive us humble servants of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala in the way that the man who blocked water from the children of Hussein was forgiven by Hussein. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Alhamdulillahi Rabbil Alameen. والصلاة والسلام على سيدنا وعظيمنا وحبيب قلوبنا وشفيع نفوسنا أبي القاسم محمد اللهم صل على وعلى أهل بيته الطيبين الطاهرين وأصحابه الغر الميامين. الحمد لله الذي جعلنا من المتمسكين بولاية سيدي ومولاي علي بن أبي طالب. الحمد لله الذي هدانا لهذا وما كنا لنهتدي لولا أن هدانا الله. أما بعد، يقول الله في كتابه الكريم: بسم الله الرحمن الرحيم. ادع إلى سبيل ربك بالحكمة والموعظة الحسنة وجادلهم بالتي هي أحسن. The first of our salawat in honor of Rasulullah Muhammad sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. The second in honor of Ammar al-Mu'mineen Ali ibn Abi Talib. The third with your loudest voices in honor of the Imam of our time, Imam Sahib al-Asr wal-Zaman. There's a request for the brothers to come closer to the front, please. Come closer for those coming in. Sallu ala Muhammad wa ali Muhammad. That window closed. Respected scholars, brothers and sisters, Assalamu alaikum wa rahmatullah wa barakatuh. The first migration of Muslims to Africa, without a doubt, is one of the most important events in Islamic history, and one of the earliest events in the prophethood of the Prophet Muhammad, peace be upon him, and his family. Over 80 Muslims who migrated to Africa left a lasting legacy that we witness until tonight. As in, when I lecture in Africa every year in the holy month of Ramadan, I see the fruits of that first migration from the land of Mecca to the land of Abyssinia, known today as the land of Ethiopia. That particular migration, no doubt, is a sadaqah jariyah for all of those who went to Africa. Because today, when you see that there are over 30 million people in the world, in Africa, who are Muslims, and you see that many of them have now established mosques, have established Quran circles, have established madrasas, where every day you hear the call, Ashhadu an la ilaha illallah, wa ashhadu anna Muhammadan Rasulullah, sallallahu alayhi wa alihi wa sallam. Indeed, all of that is testimony to a group of Muslims who left Mecca 5 years into the prophethood of the Prophet. Those Muslims today are the very reason that you see Muslims in Mauritania, Muslims in Morocco, Muslims in Egypt, Muslims in Tunisia, Muslims in Algeria, Muslims in Morocco, Muslims in Nigeria. You see Muslims in Kenya, in Tanzania, in Uganda, all the way to South Africa, amongst the many other places within Africa where you'll see Islam. Therefore, you found that that event, no doubt, was a fundamental event in bringing Islam to the land of Africa. Because many times you hear people saying that Islam seems to be an Arab religion or a Persian religion. And that would be true if a person did not dissect in depth the migration to Africa. Because the migration to Africa highlighted a number of key issues. The first of them was that Yemen and Syria were not conducive places for the Muslims to migrate to. Because at the time, people asked the question, why make the Muslims go all the way to Africa? Yes. Yemen is much closer. Send them towards Syria. Why make them go to the port of Jeddah? Yes. Take a boat, for example, all the way there. It's because Yemen at that time, the Iranians had a major control of Yemen and what was happening in Yemen. To the extent that the king of Iran would always make it clear to the leaders of Yemen that if Mohammad is caught, I want him sent to Iran. Yes, he made it clear to the people of Yemen that I don't want Yemen to be a home for Muhammad or his followers. Yes. In terms of Syria, Syria already had excellent trade with whom? Syria had trade with the Quraysh. Quran says, لِإِلَافِ قُرَيْشِ إِلَافِهِمْ رِحْلَةَ الشِّتَاءِ وَالصَّيْفِ. In the winter, the Muslims would go, or the Quraysh businessmen would go to Yemen, and in the summer they'd go to Syria. If you send a group of Muslims who are being oppressed to Syria, what they're going to do? They're going to say, listen, our trade contacts are going to be violated. It happens in the world until today. Yes, if there's a country where you have a trade deal with, if that country breaks every UN resolution, trade is important. If that country sends bombs on people, trade is important. If that country breaks every single law possible internationally, trade is important, yes. Nothing fills the stomach of the human being like a bit of oil. And that's why you find the same occurs at that time, that they could have gone towards where? In the summer, Syria, but Syria was not interested. Syria was saying, listen, we're happy with what we have. We're not interested in doing a deal. Yemen, no. So therefore, Africa, the second thing that it shows us is what? Is that sometimes a non-Muslim has more principles leading a country than a Muslim. Yes. Otherwise, Rasulullah would not tell his Muslim followers in that early Muslim community to go to Africa. Yes. The tiba, the beauty, the politeness, the softness of the people of Africa is something to be admired from that time. Otherwise, Rasulullah would not turn around and send the Muslims there. It's highlighted that whether a person was a Christian or a Muslim in Africa, that the main thing that brings them together should be their love as human beings with one another. Yes. Today in Kenya, you may have a government that's made up of Christians and Muslims. Leadership, the leader might be Christian. There's no harm if that leader is a leader who's principled, a leader who recognizes justice and tolerance of faith. Then that leader is better than the filth that you have in places like Saudi Arabia, for example. Yes. When you have a leader in a country like this who's a Christian, or for example India, you may have a leader who's a Hindu, let's say. But that leader who's a Hindu allows us to practice our faith. Yes, we're allowed to go to the Imam Barga until any time late at night. In Bombay, I've seen myself. When people come out in droves, those people come out in droves and they're able to stay in the Imam Barga until which time? Till 4 a.m., 5 a.m., 6 a.m. This is a mercy from Allah giving us such leaders, yes. Because in Dubai, by about 9 o'clock, you got to be out of that mosque, yes. You can go, for example, and go to a nightclub that's open till 3 a.m. Because there's lots of Quran to be remembered. Or you can go, for example, other places in Dubai where there's a lot of Quran. But a majlis for Al-Muhammad is banned. What do we mean? We mean that sometimes a person needs to realize when you live in a country that's ruled by a non-Muslim, don't put an X on it straight away. The more X's you should put should be on Muslim countries, not non-Muslim countries. Yes. Muslim countries, you'll find that there's corruption in the leadership. There's a lack of tolerance in the leadership. Yes. There's hypocrisy in the leadership. As can be seen with the Gulf states now, when one looks at them, you'll find, for example, countries like Saudi and Qatar preach democracy, and they don't have any in their own country. Yes? They tell the world, this person, there's no democracy, there's no democracy. There's nothing in their own. Rasulullah, peace be upon him, identified this from when? From the beginning of Islam. The number one, if there's a country where there are non-Muslim as leaders, but they are good human beings, go live there. Don't stay here. Yes? Go live there, because there you'll see the meaning of humanity, tolerance, dialogue of one another's opinion. Yes? When you live in Kenya today and you're able to say, then my kids are safe when they go to school, are not harassed because of their religion. I'm not harassed when I come on Laylatul Qadr. Yes, in Pakistan, you don't know. Yes, may Allah bless the soul of Amjad Sabri now. You see how he got killed. After his praise for Al-Muhammad, that's it, nothing else. And yet you see that the man gets killed because he praises Ahlul Bayt alayhim as-salam. Nothing else. Whereas here, I'm able to praise Ahlul Bayt in Africa, and my Prophet had already told me, the land of Africa is a land of warm humanity. It's a land of people who are tolerant. So therefore you found that this particular migration is of the utmost importance. Why? Because the Muslims were being persecuted. They were being killed. Some were being tortured. And as a leader, the Prophet has to do something about it. Let's examine exactly what he did about this, and what was the discussions that took place in the court of Abyssinia between which personalities, what was the result, which family was the first to establish Islam in Africa, and how are they related to Sayyida Zainab, and further than that, Ja'far al-Tayyar's legacy. How did that legacy continue, that it was preached by Imam al-Hussein and Imam Zain al-Abidin in front of the soldiers of Yazid? Let's examine this and dissect the topic in complete depth. In Islam, there are two types of migrations that a person may take. The most famous of them is a physical migration, by foot, or by plane, or by ship. But there's a migration that comes before this migration, which is fundamental throughout the year, but especially on the night of the 23rd of Ramadan. Which migration? The spiritual migration. Yes. Today, you'll find more people asking about when they should migrate to Europe, or when they should migrate to America, before they ask about how much their soul is undertaking a migration. There are many of us who are focused on when will I move to develop this business, or this trade, or this transaction, without asking ourselves, how about my soul? Is it migrating? Is it getting closer to Allah? Is the journey of movement happening? Because Mullah Sadra was right when he talked of the fact that we need to undertake journeys, and that these journeys are journeys which should get us closer to Allah and then return to serve the creation of Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. That spiritual journey doesn't involve you having to even leave your home. Yes. That spiritual journey may be first a reflection that my nafs can be ammara, lawama, mutma'inna, radiya, mardiya. Do we agree? That the nafs develops in stages. There's a nafs which is ammara. What's ammara? I commit haram and I don't care who's watching. Yes. That nafs, ammara bis-su', that nafs is the one where you're like, listen, I don't believe it's haram, and I'm going to do it in front of you. Or there are those who are like, yeah, I know it's haram, but I'm not ready to stop it. Yes. You've met that type of arrogant person. When you speak to him, you're like, but it's haram. He's like, yeah, I'll change it one day, not now. Now I'm enjoying it. One day when I get old and so on, I might get closer to Allah. That's ammara. That's one stage of the soul. It's extremely low stage. You know why? Because the human being, when you commit a sin, normally there's a guilt you feel. Or when you've done something wrong, you feel a sense of guilt that I know this is wrong and I shouldn't be doing it. That is lawama. There's a conscience that's alive, that you know what? I have to stop this act. What am I doing? How am I disobeying my Lord in this way? If you're at that bottom level, ammara, then you need to undertake a spiritual migration before you go on any plane or any ship. Yes. Because if you're at that bottom level of ammara, you need to now decide, when am I going to leave that level? Mind you, it's not something linear. Yes, you don't have to go from ammara to lawama to mutma'inna. Malcolm X was once in prison. The next day he's preaching Islam better than most can preach it. Yes. One day Malcolm X is giving out drugs Malcolm X is around the worst of places, and the next day he's saying, La ilaha illallah, Muhammad Rasulullah, with a nafs that's mutma'inna, until by the end of his life, he said there's no difference between the black and the white, all of them are servants of Allah. Yes. It didn't mean that Malcolm X moved on a journey from where? From Ammara to Mutmainna. No, Malcolm X, Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala, you can move in one day if you want to. You take one step to Allah on the journey, He takes 10 steps back towards you. Yes. I remember sometimes when you tell people about wearing hijab, you find some will turn around and say, but I'm not sure if I'm going to look after my hijab. Because there's this common excuse where people say, I'm not going to wear hijab. You say, why? Person says, I'm not going to wear hijab because I'm not going to look after it properly. I want to wear it when I will look after it. I honestly have never heard so much nonsense in my life, I must admit. There's quite a few nonsensical things I've heard, but that could be one of the top ones actually. When a person says that I'm not going to wear it because I'm not sure if I'll look after it. Listen, I pray salah. I'm certain I'm not looking after it, but I'm hoping Allah will show me secrets of how to look after it, yes? When I pray salah, listen, I'm not looking after my salah. I'm trying to, then Allah will look after me. Likewise, when you want to get closer to Allah on a journey, you don't turn around and say, you know what, I'll wear it when I think I will be ready to look after it. What do you mean you think you'll be ready to look after it? You take a step on a journey to Allah, Allah will open the doors of certainty in your heart. I'm not going to Hajj. Why? Because if I go to Hajj, I have to stop this haram and that haram and that haram and that haram. So I will stop them now then. But if I go to Hajj, that means I have to stop these things. Who told you if you go to Hajj, you have to stop these things? What do you think? Hajj is like a car wash, you go through it and you get washed up? No. Hajj is you taking a step to Allah. Then Allah makes becoming religious easier to you. Yes. Therefore, the first type of journey in Islam was what? Not a physical. The first type of journey, as Rasulullah was telling the companions, was spiritual journey. Yes. That before you go away to any country, first ask yourself, are you journeying to Allah yet or no? Because there's no destination at Allah's. Someone turns around and says, yes, but the environment within which I live is not religious. Yes. Allah says in the Quran, in Surah An-Nisa, that there were people who said, we are weak on this earth. Allah said, is my earth not vast enough for you to travel in? Yes. There's no doubt, Ardullah wasi'ah. Allah's land is vast for you to become religious in. If you can't become religious here, migrate. And it's wajib on a Muslim, when he's in a place where he is not getting closer to Allah, to migrate in fiqh. Yes. If you are in a country where you realize that now you begun to disobey Allah openly, then in fiqh it is wajib to migrate. On the other hand, it is haram for a Muslim to travel on a physical journey when they know that their aim of going on that journey is to disobey Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala. There are certain people, they'll say to you, let's go to Vegas, for example. Yes, Vegas is a physical journey. There's a lot of a'mal to do in Vegas. Yes. Now, in that Vegas and the physical journey of Vegas, there's many a'mal you can do. Now, someone will say, listen, Sayyid Ammar, I'm going to Vegas as a tourist. Okay, but if you have the niyyah of going to Vegas, because you're going to be in the casinos, because you're going to be around alcohol and these types of gatherings, then in fiqh that is haram to go on that holiday. Yes. Likewise, you have any other holiday. If your intention is to disobey Allah, when you go on a journey, spiritual or non-spiritual, that holiday becomes haram. If your intention, however, is tourism and so on, then that's a different context. So therefore, the first thing you have is the spiritual. The second was the physical. Rasulullah, the companions were under severe torture. Yasir killed, as we mentioned yesterday. Sumayya killed, as we mentioned yesterday. Abu Jahl was torturing with Umar ibn al-Khattab by his side before Umar had come towards the religion of Islam. These two were torturing the Makhzumis, others were torturing. Of course, if you were belonging to a sponsor, you know, if you go to Dubai to work, you have to have a sponsor from the local Bedouin. So, if you want to go and be someone who's sponsored, then if you're sponsored in Mecca, it's like Uthman bin Mad'un was sponsored by Walid ibn al-Mughira. If you're sponsored by someone, you would get away with the torture. But if you weren't sponsored by someone, then you would be on the receiving end of torture. The companions came to Rasulullah in that early community. At that time, there weren't more than 80, 90 Muslims. And one of them said to him, Ya Rasulullah, what do? We can't even leave our houses without being harassed. How do we maintain our faith? Rasulullah turned around to them. He said to them that I want you to go towards Abyssinia. There is a man who leads that country, who's a humble Christian priest. And that humble Christian priest will look after you. Who was going to lead this expedition? Ja'far al-Tayyar, youngest son of Abu Talib alayhi salam. I tell you, Abu Talib's children, one is a pure light after another. Yes? As in this religion, were it not for Ali ibn Abi Talib and Ja'far al-Tayyar, believe you me, this religion would not have grown. And then at the end, someone comes and says, but the dad is a kafir. I wish I could bring up my kids like this and die as a kafir as well. Yes. Abu Talib brought up Ja'far, he brought up Ali, and Ja'far al-Tayyar at the time was married to whom? Asma bint Umays. One of the best women this religion has ever seen was Asma bint Umays. Ja'far, Rasulullah said to him, I want you to go towards Abyssinia. Question, why Ja'far? Because the Prophet knew, number one, Ja'far's akhlaq was top. Never had anyone seen him do shirk. Never had anyone seen him drink alcohol in the days of Jahiliyyah. Never had anyone seen him lie. And Ja'far knew any verse that was revealed from the Quran, straight away he can quote that verse for you. Because when you want to give tabligh in any country, you can't be someone who's just got good rational arguments. Yes, 1 + 1 is 2, therefore that should be the point. You need Quran, you need ayahs of the Quran, you need etiquette in the way that you interact, you need to know how to talk to different types of people. Ja'far al-Tayyar, his wife Asma, had a young family, yes. They had a few sons, the eldest of which, according to different narrations, was Abdullah bin Ja'far, who would later on go on to marry who? Sayyida Zainab alayhi salam, yes. So you found that they took their young family. It's not easy for a wife to relocate. Migration physically is still ibadah. That wife, it's not easy for her to relocate because that wife, her sisters are all married to top men in Mecca. The lady wants to stay near her mom. She doesn't want to relocate. But Asma bint Umayyah said, if it pleases the heart of Rasulullah, then let's go. Yes. If it makes Rasulullah happy that we migrate towards Africa, then let's go. In those days, subhanAllah, the boat to Africa was different from today. If you want to go from Jeddah today to, let's say, Ethiopia, how much would it cost if a person wants to jump on a boat? Wallah, I don't even know. In those days, it was half a dirham. Half a dirham. But they couldn't just leave openly. You can't just call the whole of Mecca and say, hey guys, by the way, we're all going, salamu alaikum. No. Secretly, 83, 84 of them went towards where? Towards Jeddah. From Jeddah. Jeddah was a port which was common at that time, famous at that time. They jumped on the boat and the boat went where? Towards Abyssinia. Dar al-Nadwa, which we said was what? Was the Arabian parliament. Who used to be the head of Dar al-Nadwa, we said? Jamil, the wife of Abu Lahab, sister of Abu Sufyan. She used to sit there on the head of the parliament. While she was sitting there, she turned around. She said, listen, I hear Muhammad's followers have gone towards Africa. And you know there's a priest in Africa who's a religious man. They said to her, yes. So they all sat together, there's about 10 of them in Dar al-Nadwa. Said, listen, let's send some people towards Africa. I want them arrested. And I don't want a chance for them to lay any seeds in Africa. At that moment, they said, who should we send? There's a lot more people they could have sent. They sent 2. One of them becomes the most cunning politician, arguably, in the history of the religion of Islam. Amr ibn al-As. Yes. As Amr ibn al-As, from his youth, if you look at his CV, employer, Jamil, employer, Abu Sufyan, employer, Utbah bin Rabi'a, employer, Muawiyah bin Abi Sufyan. You know he's got the biggest mosque in Cairo? The big mosque in Cairo he has. If you stand outside the mosque, it says, this is the great companion of Rasulullah, Amr ibn al-As. Yes. So Amr ibn al-As, he was the one they chose with Abdullah bin Rabi'a. Yes. Amr ibn al-As went towards Africa, but Amr ibn al-As was clever. Yes. If you're going to go to Africa, you go there, and when you see the guards outside the house of the emperor of Africa, then you want to get in. It's not going to be easy for you to get in. And therefore, when it's not easy for you to be able to get in, what will happen to you? What will happen to you when it's not easy for you to get in is that you need to maybe play the odd bribe here and there, no doubt. Yes, you might need to give a bribe. What he did was he said to them that, listen, I'll give you the most beautiful of girls. You guys let me in if you don't mind. Have these Arabs arrived? Said, yes. Ja'far? He said, yes. Ja'far al-Tayyar, how old was he at that time? Ja'far al-Tayyar was young at that time, late, yes. So at that time you found that Ja'far al-Tayyar, the older brother of Imam Ali, at that time what happened? Ja'far al-Tayyar was already there. He had already entered. He had already begun to discuss. And then what took place? Amr ibn al-As said to the guards, he said, listen, I'll look after you with a few Arab girls. You just let me in. Always the best way to reach the heart of a god. So at that moment, they said to him, so you're going to give us some Arab girls? He's like, yeah, Arab girls, with the beautiful black eyes. And these Africans are thinking, Ya Allah, this is the best thing we've ever heard. They let him in. Yes. When they let him in, he came in and the Najashi was there. Ja'far al-Tayyar had already met the Najashi. Najashi used to open his doors to anyone who wants to come in. Amr ibn al-As came. Najashi was sitting down. But before he met him, he sat with his consultative committee. How can we help you? He said, listen, these young men, they're being led by Ja'far, son of Abu Talib. Yes, Ali's elder brother. Yes. He said that this Ja'far, son of Abu Talib, this person has now caused trouble in our lands. Yes, they're taking people away from the beliefs of our forefathers. Whenever anyone takes people away from the beliefs of their forefathers, you'll always find a gang who gang up against that person to destroy his reputation. This is a principle, E equals MC squared in sociology, yes? Anyone who's a threat to your father's traditions, there's always a mob of ignorant rubbish around, yes? They turned around, what did they say? They turned around at that moment and they said to him, what has happened? That our forefathers, people are, they're changing because of their leader Mohammed, and this is ridiculous. And I'm sure you'll agree that you want peace in society. They said, yes, we want peace. Said, well, these people aren't bringing any peace. They said to him, okay, very well. I think we are with you. We should get these people. We'll give them back to you. Take them to Quraysh. Amr ibn al-As said, there you go. I got done my job. He told Abdullah bin Rabi'ah. They took it to the Najashi. Najashi was sitting down. He said, what's the issue? They said, these people, Ja'far al-Tayyar and his lot, they're causing trouble for the people of Mecca. He said, that's not good news. Amr ibn al-As, what do you have to say? He said, yes, they're causing trouble non-stop. So the people said, let's hand them back to Amr ibn al-As. He can take them back to Mecca. At that moment, Najashi said, no. They said to him, why? We've heard Amr ibn al-As's point. He said, I haven't heard their side of the story. Because a great leader is one who hears both sides of a story before reaching a conclusion. Yes. There are many who try to become leaders, but they never hear both sides. They make judgments. There are many who make judgments on people's personalities without ever hearing from them what the issue was. Yes? This Najashi's first piece of wisdom was what? Let me listen to both sides of the story, not just one side of the story. Both sides of the story I'll listen to before I reach the conclusion. Ja'far walked in. Najashi said, Ja'far, is it true you people are causing trouble in Mecca? Ja'far al-Tayyar looked at him and said, oh Najashi, let me tell you how we were in Mecca. We used to eat dead bodies in Mecca. We had no respect for each other's neighbors. We'd fight over the smallest issues. We'd bury our daughters alive. Then a man was raised from amongst us by the name of Mohammad sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. And that man taught us about the importance of respecting one's neighbors and being kind to one's parents, and not always fighting over the pettiest issues. He taught us to establish supplication in our life, give charity in our life, and that's who the man is. The moment Najashi heard this, he said, this is wonderful. This is excellent. What have you people done wrong? Nothing. Stay here. Amr ibn al-As, Abdullah bin Rabi'ah left. Abdullah bin Rabi'ah had a soft spot for some of the people because his cousins were involved. So Abdullah bin Rabi'ah said to Amr ibn al-As, he said to him, listen, let's just let it go. Let's go back to Mecca and let this go. He's accepted them, let's move on. Amr ibn al-As, no way. Yes. You're not going to be Muawiyah's advisor later if you're someone who just gives in that easily. Amr ibn al-As said, no. He said, you know what I'm going to do? Muhammad's version of Jesus is different from the priests. So let me tomorrow ask Ja'far al-Tayyar in front of the priest, what's your opinion on Jesus? It's cunning. Because this is a priest, and the priest loves Christ, and Christ is the Son of God, and Christ was on the cross. Yes? So now I'm going to ask him the next day. He said, listen, your honorable priest, one more question before we leave. Priest said, go ahead, please. He said to him, what does Ja'far al-Tayyar's leader Muhammad believe about Jesus? Ask him. The priest said, what do you mean? He said, well, he must believe about Jesus because his master says he's a prophet. So let's see what he says about Jesus, because if his master is a prophet, that contradicts your belief, because Jesus is the final Messiah of God. Jesus is the Son of God. It's very cunning, yes. The priest turned around to Ja'far Tayyar. This is when you need Quran. If the followers of Ahlul Bayt are strong in Quran, then we're unstoppable. If. And that if begins from the 23rd night of Ramadan, inshallah. Yes, because today, everyone put the Quran on their head. Maybe tomorrow, until next year, there are people who will not pick up the Quran. I guarantee you. Or they will pick up the Quran, but they'll read the same 2 surahs every week. No difference. Which surah did you read this week? Yasin. What else did you read? Rahman. Okay, good. You read Taghabun? Taghabun? What's Taghabun? Did you read Zukhruf? Ever thought of reading Zukhruf? Zukhruf, is that on the PowerPoint in Ramadan? The moment we begin to build a relationship with the Quran, we're unstoppable. It's not enough just Ahlul Bayt and no Quran. And no, for other Muslims, is it enough just Quran and no Ahlul Bayt? Needs a balance of the two. I leave behind for you 2 weighty things: Quran and Ahlul Bayt. So he said to him, do you believe in Jesus? He said, yes, we believe in Adam, Noah, Abraham, Moses, Jesus. He said, okay. So what's your belief about Jesus? He said, we have a chapter of the Quran named after his mother, Maryam. He said to him, you have it? He said, yes. In the Quran, Maryam is mentioned more in the Quran than in the Bible. He said, what do you say about his birth? He said, about his birth we say that what? We say about his birth that he was born from a virgin birth. He said, yes. He said, yes. Ammar ibn As is looking, he's thinking, hold on, this priest is getting persuaded here. So he said to him, what did he say when he was born? He began to recite the verses from Surah Maryam. Yes. إني عبد الله آتاني الكتاب وجعلني نبيا وجعلني مباركا أينما كنت وأوصاني بالصلاة والزكاة ما دمت حيا وبرا بوالدتي ولم يجعلني جبارا شقيا. When he began to recite these wonderful lines, the narrations mention that the Najashi began to tear up. Yes. Ammar ibn As said, but ask him about the cross. Ask him about the cross. Ask him about Son of God. Najashi said, no. The way he has described Jesus is no different from what we describe. There's a small difference. It's the length of this line that I draw on the ground. Nothing else. It's exactly the same. He said that these people have done nothing wrong. From now on, Ja'far, you and the rest of the Muslims live in my land and you can preach whatever you want to preach. Yes. Look at the tolerance. This is tolerance. This is the meaning of humanity, not animals of the Middle East. Yes. This is the meaning of humanity. Tolerance. When a person allows in a nation for there to be Muslims, for there to be other faiths, you see in countries like Oman, what a leader the Sultan is. Yes. May Allah give him long life. In Muscat, he allows the Sunni and the Shia and the Ibadi, the expats who are coming to work in Oman, all of them live in peace with one another in Muscat because the Sultan is a good human being. Yes. In India, Muslims and Hindus, same street, laughing, joking, talking, best friends. Imam Barga here, this there. And who causes the mess for us? The same nonsense of Saudi Arabia, everywhere. If there is a riot in India, it's because of Saudi filth. If there is a problem in where? In any Middle Eastern country, it's because of the Aqidah of Ibn Taymiyyah and Ibn Qayyim al-Jawziyah. Yes, and Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab. And that's the sad thing now, that Ahlul Sunnah are being represented by the extreme Salafi Wahhabis. Yes, that instead of people going to the scholars of Ahlul Sunnah who left a legacy of history and theology and ethics and law which a person can learn from, you found now that the world of Ahlul Sunnah is dominated by Muhammad bin Abdul Wahhab, by Ibn Taymiyyah, and by Ibn al-Qayyim al-Jawziyah. These are the triangle, and then they have their servants, from your Ibn Bazes to your Uthaymeens to your Jibreens to the Al-Shaykhs. These are the people who dominate what is Ahlul Sunnah today. Sadly, the spirituality, the ethics is all gone. It's just become a medieval Syrian represented school which is taking much of the voices. Now what do you find? You find that Abyssinian priest, what did he do? He let Ja'far al-Tayyar live there. Ja'far al-Tayyar, married to Asma bint Umays, they had their children, everyone started building mosques there. Some Muslims, of course, missed Mecca. They kept on wanting to go back. One group went back and they thought to themselves that what's going to happen, that the mushriks will let us free. But then they realized that no, it was too difficult to return back. So they all went back to Africa again. The community continued to build, continued to flourish, continued to grow. Rasulullah, once he found out that Ja'far and everyone's safe, suddenly the people of Ethiopia started coming to Mecca. Why? Because now the people saw the way Ja'far al-Tayyar was behaving. The ambassador of a religion makes a big difference to the religion. Yes. I always say, look at the difference between Khalid going to Yemen and Ali going to Yemen. You see the difference in the way they taught Islam to the people of Yemen. Likewise, the ambassador Ja'far al-Tayyar made Ethiopians want to ask about Islam. They all came to Mecca. When they come to Mecca, they'd ask Rasulullah questions. When Rasulullah would answer, they'd cry. In Mecca, they'd cry. And that's why the Quran, there's a wonderful ayah all of you should read. Surah 5 verse 82. وَلَتَجِدَنَّ أَقْرَبَهُمْ مَوَدَّةً لِلَّذِينَ آمَنُوا الَّذِينَ قَالُوا إِنَّا نَصَارَى ذَلِكَ بِأَنَّ مِنْهُمْ قَسِّيسِينَ وَرُهْبَانًا وَأَنَّهُمْ لَا يَسْتَكْبِرُونَ. You will see the closest people in reciprocal love to the Muslims are the Christians, because their monks and their priests are humble human beings. Surah 5 verse 82. وَإِذَا سَمِعُوا مَا أُنزِلَ إِلَى الرَّسُولِ. And when they hear what has been revealed to our messenger, yes, تَرَى أَعْيُنَهُمْ تَفِيضُ مِنَ الدَّمْعِ مِمَّا عَرَفُوا مِنَ الْحَقِّ. You'll see their eyes overflow with tears when they've recognized the truth. The Quran says that when you bring these Christians from Ethiopia, when they were coming to Mecca, they'd meet Rasulullah sallallahu alayhi wa sallam. The moment they meet him, the moment they hear the Quran, they start crying because they're like, this is what we've been looking for as well. And of all of them who converted, the Najashi himself converted to Islam. Yes, the Najashi, because of Ja'far al-Tayyar, saw the akhlaq of Ja'far. Because believe you me, akhlaq sometimes brings people to the religion much more than just talking about it. He saw the akhlaq of Ja'far, the principles of Ja'far. The moment he saw this, he became a Muslim. Abu Sufyan's daughter was married there in Africa with her husband, the son of Jahash. But the son of Jahash ended up leaving Islam to marry a Christian woman. So Abu Sufyan's daughter was there, no husband. If her dad finds out that not only she's become a Muslim, but a Muslim man left her, the dad will cause even more trouble. Rasulullah turned around and he asked the Najashi, from where you are, recite the nikah for me with Abu Sufyan's daughter. Yes. Habiba, the daughter of Abu Sufyan, who recited her nikah with Rasulullah, that Christian priest who had become a Muslim was now organizing marriages in Africa. Yes. He was the one who recited the nikah. He was the one who looked after the Muslim community. Suddenly converts were coming, as in John in Karbala, the companion of Imam al-Hussein. John was from Abyssinia. He came to Medina because of the love that Ja'far al-Tayyar had established. Ja'far al-Tayyar had looked after the message of the religion of Islam in the most wonderful of ways. Yes, people were all coming towards the religion because of this man Ja'far. And that's why he would always write to Rasulullah. And he would say, do you know what he would write? Ya Rasulullah, I wish I was at Badr with you, but I've heard about your victory at Badr. Because he's always in Africa. Ya Rasulullah, I heard about Uhud. I wish one day I can come back, because he's in Africa. Ya Rasulullah, I heard about Khandaq. And he keeps hearing his younger brother is defeating everybody. Yes. So imagine if Ja'far and Ali were at the front of a battle together, what would happen? Yes. Ja'far was in Africa. Imam Ali was Abyssinia. Badr, I wish I was there. Uhud, I wish I was there. Khandaq, I wish I was there. Khaybar, the moment Rasulullah was returning from Khaybar, after a long time, Rasulullah had told his companions, write to Ja'far. Just before Khaybar, he said, write to Ja'far, tell him to come back. The moment Rasulullah was coming to Medina from Khaybar, who did he see from far away? Ja'far. So Rasulullah said a wonderful line. I don't know which one to be more pleased with. The victory of Ali at Khaybar or the return from Abyssinia of Ja'far. What a wonderfulness. That Ali ibn Abi Talib had just given victory at Khaybar, but his elder brother had just returned from where? From Abyssinia. Rasulullah hugged him straight away, saw Asma, saw the kids, they've all grown now. And now Ja'far said, you know how much I missed that I hear the religion spreading? He said, no, Ja'far, you had spread the religion in Africa yourself. Yes? All the sadaqah today of mosques in Africa goes back to Imam Ali's brother, Ja'far al-Tayyar. Yes? He's the one who's the reason we have Islam in Africa like we see it today. And then he said to Rasulullah, Ya Rasulullah, if there is another moment of jihad, then Ya Rasulullah, let me have the chance to be involved in that moment of jihad, please. Yes, I wasn't at Badr, I wasn't at Uhud, I wasn't at Khandaq, I wasn't at Khaybar. Ya Rasulullah, if there's another moment, please allow me. Was there? Yes, the following year after Khaybar. The famous battle known as the Battle of Mu'tah. The Battle of Mu'tah was a battle where the Muslims had gone. There had been an attack on the Muslim community. The Muslims went under the leadership of Ja'far al-Tayyar and Zayd, yes, and the son of Rawaha, Abdullah bin Rawaha. They had gone there to defend the Muslims, yes. Sadly, on that day, like Uhud, like Hunayn, you had companions who didn't do anything, yes. And then you had those who were stuck at the front when others were leaving them. Zayd got killed, Abdullah bin Rawaha got killed, Ja'far al-Tayyar lost one arm. Then as he was trying to look after the banner of the Muslims, he lost the other arm as well. And he fell down that day as a shaheed. If you can, whenever you go and transit to Jordan, or you're on your way somewhere, stop there and get off. Go to Mu'tah to visit the grave of Ja'far al-Tayyar. Yes. He is the most abandoned, gharib al-ghuraba of the Ahl al-Bayt is Ja'far al-Tayyar. Nobody visits him in Jordan. Nobody. And it's vital that we make an effort to try. I don't know, in these days with the rise of... But we should try somehow to try and visit him in Jordan. Yes, he's there. He lost his ride. The news came back to Medina. Rasulullah couldn't stop crying. Couldn't stop. Because he knew that the reason Muslims were successful in the beginning of Islam was because Ja'far was willing to leave home. Many won't. If you tell someone now, leave your community to go to another community, he'll have a headache and get white hair. Imagine you tell someone to leave a country. Yes, someone you tell, Rasulullah knew. But now, how do you break the news to Asma, the wife of Ja'far al-Tayyar? Yes. Who broke the news? Fatima al-Zahra. Fatima al-Zahra went towards her. She consoled her. And she said to her, I have the news. She said, how is Ja'far? At that moment, Fatima al-Zahra alayhi salam, how difficult it is to tell someone that their husband or their beloved one has died. She consoled her, and then Bibi Fatima said, I'll cook the food for the guests to come. Because whenever there is someone who dies, we should always have food for the community. So people honor that person. Fatima al-Zahra said, I will look after the food of that person. Asma, after Ja'far died, Asma married Abu Bakr, the first Khalifa, yes? And from him, she had the famous son known as Mohammad, son of Abu Bakr. Yes. Abu Bakr was married to Asma for a couple of years. And then Asma, when Abu Bakr died, she married Imam Ali ibn Abi Talib alayhi salam. Yes. And when she married Imam Ali, she gave him a couple of sons. But still, even while married to Amir al-Mu'mineen, Imam had to look after her. The lady had orphans. There was no one there for her. Even after married to Amir al-Mu'mineen, no doubt, the love of her life was that person she had spent her time with in Africa, was Ja'far al-Tayyar. And no doubt for anyone, when they hear that their beloved one has died, it's difficult for that person. Yes, when they hear that someone has passed away a natural death, it's extremely difficult. If you hear someone got killed, it's difficult. But to hear that that person lost both of their arms is even more difficult. Yes. I asked Asma bint Umays, if it was difficult for you that you ended up hearing the news of Ja'far al-Tayyar losing both arms, then how was it for al-Baneen when she was asking about what happened on the plains of Karbala, yes, on the 10th of Muharram? Because Ja'far al-Tayyar died losing both arms, but he never had an arrow pierced in the middle of his eye. Yes. Ja'far al-Tayyar did not have people who come to chop his body into pieces. Yes. Ja'far lost his arms, and therefore Imam al-Hussein at Karbala tells Yazid's army, is Ja'far not my uncle, O army of Yazid? And then Imam Zain al-Abidin says that Allah granted us 6 and gave us excellence in 7. From us is Rasulullah, from us is Ali, from us is Hamza, from us is Ja'far al-Tayyar. Yes? But Ja'far lost both those arms. It was difficult for Asma. I ask you, how difficult was it for al-Banin? When she saw the people coming into Medina and she began to ask, tell me about Abu Abdullah. Allahu Akbar, yes? It's the night of the 23rd of Ramadan. One of the recommended things is to gain knowledge in this night. But the second recommended thing, a tear for Abi Abdullah, answers all the hajat on the 23rd of Ramadan, yes? When the person came into Medina from Karbala, he had wanted to provide the news of Karbala. He wanted to tell the people, al-Banin heard that there's a person called Bishr bin Hadlam, and that he had come with the news of the events of the 10th of Muharram. Yes, she had come walking towards him, and in her hand was the baby of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. One of Abbas's children who didn't go to Karbala was with his grandmother al-Banin. She came towards Bishr bin Adlam. She said, tell me about Karbala, tell me. Yes, Bishr bin Hadlam at that moment asked the people, he said, who is that person? They said to him, you don't know who she is? That's al-Banin, the mother of Abu al-Fadl al-Abbas. Yes. And one moment Bishr heard that, he said to her, may Allah reward you over the death of your son Ja'far. She called out, tell me about Abu Abdullah, tell me. Yes, I thought you were Abbas's mother. Why are you asking about Hussein? Yes. She said, tell me about Abu Abdullah, tell me. He said to her, may Allah reward you over your son Aoun. She said, tell me about Abu Abdullah, tell me. He said to her, may Allah reward you about your son Abdullah. She said, tell me about Abu Abdullah, tell me. Yes, he's telling her about her sons, but to her there's only one son, Fatima's son. Yes. Then he said to her, may Allah reward you over the death of your son Abbas. The moment she heard that, she dropped the baby of Abu al-Fadl. Yes, she dropped the child of Abu al-Fadl, and she looked at Bishr. She said, tell me about Abu Abdullah. Yes, but I'm telling you that Abbas has died. No, tell me about Abu Abdullah. The moment she heard, where did she go? She knew that they've all come back from Karbala. So she went to one place. She went to knock at the door of Bibi Zainab's house. Yes, everybody went together at that house. Bibi Zainab was in the house. Bibi Zainab had told Bibi Fidda, don't answer the door to anyone. Don't let them in, I'm mourning. Bibi Fidda went towards the door. She opened it. And then she turned around to Bibi Zainab. She said to her, it's al-Banin. Zainab ran to the door. al-Banin ran to Zainab. What did they both say to each other? Zainab called out, Wa Abbas, and al-Banin called out, Wa Husayna. Look at the two words. One of them called out, Wa Abbas, and the other called out, Wa Husayna. That moment they all gathered with each other. They gathered together. al-Banin would not stop visiting Jannat al-Baqi'. She'd go to Baqi'. She'd put 4 sand graves on Baqi'. They would say to her, but there's a 5th one as well. She'd make a 5th one. They said to al-Banin, you have 4 sons who died at Karbala. Who's the 5th one? She said, that's for my son Abu Abdullah. Yes, because to her Abu Abdullah was like a son since her mother Fatima died. And that's why there's a piece of poetry that breaks her heart. Someone came to her and said, how much do you wish to see Abbas's head? Yes, do you wish to see Abbas's head? The piece of poetry says that she replied with the following lines: if you give me all the heavens and all the earth, and you give me 70 Abbas, I'd swap all of them to see the holy head of Abu Abdullah. If you give me all the heavens and the earth, and you gave me 70 Abbas, I'd swap all of them to see the holy head of Abu Abdullah. Ya Allah, on this night, the night of the 23rd, provide us with the shafa'ah of al-Banin alayhi salam. Ya Allah, the shafa'a of Gharib al-Ghuraba of Al Muhammad Ja'far al-Tayyar, the one who flies with wings in Jannah in honor of the arms that he lost in the battle. Ya Allah, raise us with Muhammad and Al Muhammad. On this night, forgive all of our shortcomings. Ya Allah, bless our parents and all of our marhumeen. Ya Allah, the originators of this majlis, forgive them and allow them to receive the shafa'ah of Muhammad and Al Muhammad. Inshallah, these majalis will continue until Saturday night, where we will continue until the 27th, looking at the seerah of Rasulullah sallallahu alaihi wasallam. Ya Allah, provide us the shafa'ah of the man whose lectures we are doing, inshallah, and raise us with him on this, the holiest of nights. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala for all of our brothers in Iraq, our brothers in Syria, our brothers in Yemen, our brothers in Pakistan. For our respected reciter and lover of Ahlul Bayt, Amjad Sabri, Ya Allah, allow him to receive shafa'at Muhammad and Al Muhammad. There are many who have asked me that they are ill, they have hajat, they have needs, parents who want their children married, parents who want their children to come closer to Ahlul Bayt, those who have their children who have passed away, but maybe they want to remember them on a night like this, and remember their beloved grandchildren. Let's all raise our hands and recite the important and noble ayah. Bismillah ar-Rahman ar-Rahim. Amma yujibu al-mudtarra idha da'a wa yakshifu as-su'. Louder please. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء. It's the night of the 23rd, all of us. أما يجيب المضطر إذا دعا ويكشف السوء أما يجيب. Ya Allah, in the name of the one who was ill at Karbala, Imam Zain al-Abidin, cure all of our beloved ill ones. Remove the difficulties that they face. Those who are undertaking operations in the last few days, Ya Allah, allow them to recover and bless them with the shafa'ah of Muhammad and Al Muhammad. We pray to Allah subhanahu wa ta'ala with the Surah Al-Fatiha, but before it the loudest of your salawat.